And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. When you're downtown, checking out maybe the Reds game, checking out maybe a Bengals game as the season is getting close, make sure you stop by and see our good friends at the Holy Grail. They will get you taken care of. Great food, great drinks, and remember, every Sensi Light you buy, an additional 50 cents will be donated back into the Sensi Reigns NIL collective that supports the University of Cincinnati athletes. Also, remember, September 28th, I can't give out all the details just yet, but I want you to know this. There is a watch party for the Texas Tech game, and it is absolutely the watch party of all the watch parties we've ever done. It is the watch party you want to attend. It is going to be a massive, massive event. So put that on your calendar now, and we will have more details as the event approaches. All right, let's get this show on the road. One more day, Dave. One more day.
That's right.
How you doing, buddy?
That's right. I'm doing all right. And on the 28th, you can go downtown for the Kroger Wellness Festival, where I will be working, and enjoy all that is that, and then head over to the Holy Grail whenever the game actually is. So,
yeah, that's
perfect time to be downtown.
It's going to be a busy one. There's no Reds, there's no Bengals that weekend. So it should be a good event. Go down, see Dave, and then stop up at the Holy Grail. Bring a Sharpie or a pen, because
so you can get my autograph.
So you can get Dave's autograph, and then maybe there will be some other autographs or things like that.
Although I will not be at the watch party.
No, you're not allowed to come to watch parties.
Nope.
You can walk by and wave like on the way back to your car.
I mean, maybe I need to now to maybe reverse some momentum.
Maybe, possibly, but yeah. So get that earmarked. So Dave and I have been working on this one. I'll be honest. The original idea for tonight was to have some basketball content to add in, because it's been so football heavy over the past couple weeks. But the reality is the basketball team is off until they'll start coming back, I guess this weekend. But school starts on Monday. So the basketball team was given a couple weeks off from the end of summer workouts. So everybody's on vacation. If you're on Instagram, boy, NIL money is nice, because the team are in some exotic locales, enjoying their short break before they get back to work when the semester starts Monday. So that didn't come together. But before the football season starts, we will get some basketball content to kind of go over the summer, what summer workouts accomplished, and then kind of get into what comes next, as they have a couple weeks of like the summer type schedule where they get 4 hours in the gym, they get 4 hours in the weight room, and then in late September, practice starts where they can go 20 hours a week or whatever. So I promise you we will get to that. It's on my mind. I am not forgetting the basketball folk, but right now everybody's enjoying some time away. So and well-deserved time away. They don't get much of it. So that's kind of where we're at on that front. So Dave and I were discussing, and I think we have had more than enough content discussing the day-to-day happenings at Camp Higher Ground. And I'm gonna be honest, we're almost out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is good, because camp ends tomorrow. And Dave, today it finally hit me. I did pretty good this year. usually it's like much earlier in this week or like over the weekend, you kind of get that camp fatigue. I can't imagine the players like where they're at this point in time. And kudos to the staff. I think they could kind of sense that. They gave them, there was a lot less 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 today. A lot of time in positions, a lot of time with their, defense working on install, offense working on install. There wasn't a lot of clanging and banging of the pads today, Dave, which tomorrow is the last day at Higher Ground. So I imagine they'll have a pretty good intensity camp tomorrow, camp day tomorrow. And then they come back to Nippert on Friday for a scrimmage. And then they get a day or two off, and then they'll do like a week of camp on campus. But, not game prep yet, obviously, because that'll come the following week. Yeah. But go ahead.
We're 2.5 weeks from kickoff. It's finally almost here.
It is finally almost here. It's been an interesting camp. There's been a lot to talk about. There's obviously, because of the number of new players and getting used to the new roster and all that stuff, things have been good. Things have been interesting. So I thought today would be a good time to maybe go position by position and just kind of discuss where we were at, like contrast and compare where we were at before camp and where we're at now. I don't think our opinions are going to change drastically with 2 days left of camp. So I think this is kind of a good spot, and it'll give us a chance to just kind of do an overview of camp that without doing like Sorsby hit a 5-yard out route to Tyron Smith.
Yeah,
I am almost tapped out on that. Like I am almost out of day-to-day conversation on
there is a level of redundancy when you're in this phase of 2+ weeks, straight, and there's so many guys, but realistically that about half of them are truly going to see the field. So you're not, your attention span is limited, and you feel like you're talking about the same group consistently. So yeah, it's certainly time to do the old, cliched sports talk, stock up, stock down, report card, type of analysis.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, and I do think part of the reason why like camp has been interesting every day is because we didn't know so many of these guys, and there's so many.
The newness of it,
like
carries the day for a while, but then, now that we feel like we have a good idea of what to expect or who to expect it from, now we're kind of in the doldrums of camp, so to speak.
What's good, Natty Ron? Good to see you, brother. Probably not going to be a lot of basketball talk for you today. It's going to be a heavy. It's going to be a heavy house camp. Funny you should ask, Ron. We're about to get into it. We'll start at the top.
Before we go into that, I do want to say I have very much enjoyed all the videos with the players. One, I think just because so many of them are new, so it's a good way to get to know them. But how the old question, how are the vibes, and how much are the vibes worth? It certainly feels like camp has been, and I'm not comparing it to last camp because I really wasn't there, and things I think were fine.
Things didn't go to shit until they started losing, Dave.
Right. It does. You can tell me, and because you're there every day, like it feels like the guys are at least in a good place going into the season. There hasn't been a lot of, you and I talk separately, and obviously some things stay off the board and blah, blah, blah. But like, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of moments of like, man, this is a mess, or this period was a disaster for one unit or the other. I feel like things are in a fairly good place, within expectations as we get closer to September or August 31st, I should say.
So I think this camp has, to date, had the one thing that you want a camp to have, Dave. Balance.
Yeah.
There have been days the defense has been outstanding. There have been days the offense has been outstanding. There have been days the coverage is on point. There have been days the quarterbacks have, found openings and been able to work the ball into tough spots. And, it's kind of that, it's so hard when you're practicing each other, like I'll never forget 2018 and feeling like coming out of that camp, man, this secondary's got a chance to be really, really good. And ultimately I was right. It was, it wasn't necessarily 2018. But the reality was the receivers were dreadful, like just flat out bad. So of course the defensive backs look great because the receivers couldn't get open. And that part, you always have to kind of guard against. You always have to, try to watch, like dig down into the finer details of why things are happening. Or, is this happening because of A or because of B or C? It's a little of both.
Yeah.
But I've walked away from this camp to this point thinking, that it looks like both sides of the ball, I other than, what we'll get to, and some of this is injury and availability related with the defensive line. I don't have any this team's probably going to be really bad at this. And maybe they will, maybe it's a bad read from what we've seen so far, but the talent level, I think, and you noted this in the practice that you watched, it feels like the water level, they put a lot more water in the pool this season.
Yeah, I think the overall talent level is better. It's hard to gauge that until you actually see it on the field, how much better that is. But I certainly feel better than I did. I guess I should say I just kind of saw some bits and pieces of things that made me feel like, okay, like, am I going to go all the way to like some ridiculous prediction? Probably not. But I would, outside of some serious injuries in multiple places, I feel like this team is more equipped to compete week in and week out in the Big 12. And that doesn't mean that they're going to win these close games, but just that I feel better about where things stand, going into the season based off of what I've gotten to see in a very limited amount and what you guys have talked about so often.
Yeah. Before we get into it, this segment is brought to you by our good friends at Home Field. Home Field is the exclusive apparel partner for Bearcat Journal. I guess it's not exclusive. We still have our guys at Cincy or at 513 Shirts, but Home Field is the apparel partner of the BCJ podcast. They are running right now the Can't Miss Kickoff campaign. Go to homefield.com and enter in code BCJ23. That will get you a discount, and they are right now, they are selling the Platinum VIP boxes. And these are available. They started on August 9th. They are limited. They will sell out. They have a t-shirt, a crew neck, a hoodie. You get a mug. You get some socks. They've got gray. They've got white. They've got black. You get a little bit of variety of everything to get you ready for the season for the Cincinnati Bearcats. So we want to thank everybody for their support of Home Field, for their support of Bearcat Journal. HomeFieldApparel.com. Get there now. Get your platinum box for the Cincinnati Bearcats, and you will be set for the 2024 season. No other place to start, Dave. Let's start at quarterback. I will lead this off by saying I think yesterday and today have been the two best days for Brendan Sorsby. And I'm talking from a consistency standpoint, from a running the offense standpoint, from a making the throws standpoint. It feels like we're starting to get that late camp surge. And I thought they struggled a little bit. They opened hot Saturday on the scrimmage at Nippert. And then, I thought the defense did a really good job kind of dialing back in, refocusing, playing really well for the middle portion of the scrimmage. And then in the red zone at the end of the scrimmage, the offense kind of got rolling again. But then to go back out to higher ground and have Sorsby on Tuesday and Wednesday, I thought he had a bad day. I thought him and Lichty weren't good on Monday. But they bounced back Tuesday, and Sorsby has been really good the last 2 days. And I think that's exactly what you want to see as you're coming to the end of camp, Dave, right? Like, you don't want your quarterback to start off hot at camp, and then by the third week, he's struggling. Like, you want to see him gaining momentum into the season.
I don't really need him lighting the world on fire August 7th.
Right.
I obviously want him to play well every day and stack days on top of days. But, and I know Coach Satterfield is going to probably play this pretty close to the vest all the way up until game time. That's just what coaches do. But I don't think there's been any reason for us to think that he's not going to be the starter. I mean, Brady Lichtenberg has had a very, very solid camp, I think, by all accounts as well. But, you kind of, in this portal era, you went out and you got a quarterback. And the guy's he was good in the spring on very short notice, and he's been good in this preseason camp. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that there's truly a quarterback competition going on. But no, I feel pretty good about where they are in that room. And, we've talked so much just about what we need out of a quarterback in this system with this offensive line and running game. And, they're never going to be air raid. They're not going to drop him back 40, 45, 50 times a game unless the situation specifically dictates that. But, can you be I was just looking at Emory Jones' stats from last year just as a benchmark. We're talking 61 and something %, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a little bit over 2,000 yards. I feel fairly good in saying that should not be very hard for Brendan Sorsby to surpass.
Yeah, the funny part is the numbers aren't as bad as maybe it felt like at times last year.
No, look at how much of that though was the very first game.
It was 500 yards and 7 touchdowns or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what that means. But
don't mind her.
I feel like, with the way that this offense wants to run, and we'll get to the other positions in the offense, I feel like Brendan Sorsby has good control from what I've seen, from what I've heard. It doesn't feel like they're having to hold anything back at this point. You guys mentioned the very first play in the scrimmage was not a play to Joe Royer. And how many times
last read?
Right. How many times last year did we talk about maybe some of that was the offensive line last year was not even allowing us to get to a
multitude of things.
A secondary read. But just that one play to me speaks to last year it was whether it was the offensive line issue or Emory Jones issue. We never even thought about getting to a second or third read 75% of the time. let alone the quarterback
a fourth or fifth read.
Right, hanging in there and waiting for that type of a play to develop. So, I'm pretty positive on that. Again, we'll see when we get into games how that all looks and whatnot. But like I think I would feel pretty good about where we're sitting, especially if you want to just compare, if you want to go, where are we today versus where we were when the season ended last year? Because there's kind of no point in like, oh, well, from the spring to now. Well, yeah, everyone better be better from the spring to now.
Right. That's the point.
That's right. Yeah. So if we're talking about how the season ended, the issues that we talked about so many times on the offense, quarterback specific, like again, is he going to be a top 3 or even maybe top 5 quarterback in the league? I'm not sure I'm going to go that far, but like Emory Jones was at the very bottom or damn near the very bottom of the league last year, and I don't see that being really in the cards for Brendan Sorsby outside of something just totally unexpected happening.
Yeah. And here's kind of, when we get to Brady Lichtenberg, this is through like Brady has had a very good camp.
Yeah.
But when you're coming in on kind of, I would, say when they came in, Sorsby was expected to be like the leader and Lichty was expected to challenge him, which is what has happened. But Lichty was going to need Sorsby to slip up, right? To have a stretch where one is playing well and the other not so much. And that hasn't happened. They've both kind of been on the same trajectory, but Sorsby's the guy with the higher upside. So he has maintained his lead in the race. But credit to Lichtenberg because he hasn't, like, they came out of the turn in horse racing terms, and one hasn't pulled away. The leader out of the turn is still the leader out of the turn, but it's by a length instead of 4 lengths because Sorsby played great and Lichtenberg wasn't able to keep up. He was able to keep up. So, it's a situation where I think if you're the coaching staff, you feel pretty good about things because you had 2 quarterbacks that showed they can run the offense if necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at the scrimmage I was at, and then, or at the practice, I didn't go to scrimmage, at the practice I was at.
Yeah.
And I believe you had mentioned it, maybe either to me or on one of the shows. I think we do see some separation when they do go full 11 on 11. And that might have gotten a little bit tighter over this last week, but it felt like Brady was right there with Sorsby in kind of the drill work. But when it was a true team setting and 11 on 11, I think that's where we saw Sorsby have the better performance and maybe the stronger command of the offense.
I would agree with that. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit on some of the shows. I think Lichty, so much of what he does is predicated upon good footwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his footwork gets sped up a little when there's traffic, when there's, congestion in the pocket. And, that's something that Sorsby's been, and I'm, some of that could very well be Sorsby started 7 games in the Big Ten. Like, I bet if we went back and watched some of those early starts, probably had happy feet a little bit more than the Indiana coaches would have wanted.
Eyes dropping and I think Brady gets a little narrow in his stance when there's pressure and gets up on his toes a little bit. And that's a very novice take from someone that's been into one practice.
You got to use the right term. He gets off platform.
Well, I'm
that's
not one
the new
to use
the new buzzy terminology.
Yeah, all the silly draft characteristics of like arm talent and he's a knee bender. Well, how else do you bend your knees? So yeah, but anyway, I think quarterback feeling pretty good. I'd say stock up if we're gonna do this stupid little.
Well, no, that's
thing.
this. I did not ask to do stock up. This is
I
your
know,
thing.
I'm
Okay.
making fun of it.
Okay.
We have to be like on
and-
these morning shows that
oh God,
have to give
this is so bad.
a full throated, definitive answer on everything. So,
I would we'll throw in Samaj Jones. I think for a freshman, he's been good.
he's got an arm, man.
He can sling it. Now, I've actually seen in the last 2 days, Dave, 3 or 4 different times on like throws over the middle or throws that need a little finesse, need a little touch, that he's not just relying, like standing there and throwing, Brett Favre rockets that break guys' fingers.
Yeah, he's not trying to put holes in walls on every throw.
So that's what I want to see from him more than anything. I think that is the biggest step in development that he needs to make, is to not think it's just all strictly like, I have to arm this in there.
No,
I have to muscle this throw into a tight spot.
Plenty strong enough.
Oh, he can. Some of his deep balls, man, they look like they're, out of a instructional video, the way he flings it down the field. But I would say, like, in relation to Samaj Jones, he's a little bit ahead of schedule. I don't think he's a lot ahead of schedule, but for a freshman quarterback, I think he's had a good camp.
Yeah,
which I think is a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Running back, this has been hard because I think they've been smart.
Yeah.
They're not just hammering away at the running game through camp and putting a bunch of mileage on these guys when they know we are going to be a team that runs the football a lot. The miles are coming. Like, we do not need to physically exhaust these dudes every day in camp when we're going to physically exhaust them 12 Saturdays over the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it's an offensive line that returns, at this point we'll say 4 out of 5 starters, but you still have several players that were in the system last year that are going to be in that top 7-8 guys. You have a new quarterback, but you have your lead bell cow running back in Corey Kinderback. Like, how much true ground and pound and like tackling and all that do you really need to do at this point when you know what you have and you're working on maybe the finer points or adding some new wrinkles? This isn't a new staff teaching offensive linemen how to, or at least the offensive linemen that are going to play considerable amount of snaps. They're not teaching them a new blocking scheme anymore. They're not teaching the backs like how to read the linemen anymore. I mean, they're maybe Chance Williams and Evan Pryor are, but like Corey's gonna, if he's healthy, he's gonna get probably 65% of the carries. So yeah, I don't see a reason to just stand up there for several periods every single day and just run these guys into the defense for no reason.
Yeah, so we've seen enough, I think, enough of Kiner, like enough to get him ready. It's not like he's sitting out,
right?
But it's also not like he's running every rep with the ones. He's not out there for 100 snaps of practice.
Well, that would, I mean, you brought in 2 transfer running backs. It would be malpractice to do that, right, and then just keep giving him the ball a ton in practice.
Right. So we haven't seen a ton of Corey. We've seen enough of Corey. He looks good. I think he looks a little more streamlined. Like, he's still obviously a very strong dude, but I think he looks a little bit quicker, a little bit shiftier at the point of attack. So that's clearly something. And we've talked to Nico about it throughout the offseason on wanting to get him maybe able to finish runs a little bit more, maybe to up that top end speed just a little bit, to add a couple extra yards on those longer runs. But I mean, let's also be honest, Dave. He's a guy that he's never had a major injury, but he does get dinged up a little when the usage is heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another reason that you don't need to run him a lot. Keegan asked me an interesting question today, Dave. And you're not going to be able to answer this because you haven't seen a lot. But he said, would I move Chance Williams ahead of Evan Pryor on the 2 deep? And I don't necessarily think I would, but I will say this. I think Chance Williams has had the better camp.
Yeah.
I am a big Chance Williams guy. I like the explosiveness that he brings. I mean, he had a great run in the scrimmage, and he's had a couple, when they've gone live in practice, where you see him able to kind of put that foot in the ground and get upfield quick and turn what was maybe a 7-8 yard gain into a 25-yard gain.
Right.
That's not, Evan Pryor has been fine. Go ahead.
I think that just depends on what you're primarily asking your backup running back to do.
Sure.
Are they coming in on third downs on passing situations? So who's the better pass blocker? Who's the better receiver? Like, there's a lot that goes into who we're elevating into that secondary role, more so than just like who's doing a better job when they carry the ball.
Yeah, I think
Corey's not going to be out there on a lot of third downs.
Well, I think that's Chance. Like, I think he's going to be kind of probably your third down guy. But what we've also seen from Satterfield is, at least last year and a little bit at Louisville, he used a lot of running backs at Louisville. Now, a lot of times they were pretty equal in talent, so he used a stable. When he's had a bell cow, he's used a bell cow. Like, so he's shown the ability to do both. But I think what we've seen, or what we can kind of expect, is that he likes to give guys series where okay, this series is starting out with this back and he's going to be the primary back through this series. Mm-hmm. I think Evan Pryor is your guy in those situations.
Right. Because
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have to watch a lot more of Grambling, like full Grambling tape, to be like, is Williams your guy if it's a 10-play drive? Is he out there the whole drive, regardless of whether it's first down or third down, or you bring in a different back in on third down, you pick up the first down, then Corey goes back in? Like, it's, there's a lot to kind of go through there on how you exactly set that up.
The thing I will say about Chance, he's not slight. Like, he's not a skinny guy.
Yeah, he's just shorter.
Yeah, he's 5'8", 190. So it's not a matter of like we're putting in this like scat back that's like 175 pounds that you don't want running between the tackles. They've run in between the tackles, a decent amount, and he's looked good doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be any hesitation on like, if he starts a series, are you going to have to get him out after, 4 or 5 plays or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But I just get the sense that like Pryor is going to be that guy that gives Corey a blow, like gives him that breather for a series, or, it's the first series of the second quarter and you put Chance Williams you put Evan Pryor in there to like run that series or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you use Chance on third downs or,
mm-hmm.
little gimmicky plays, things like that.
How much have they, outside of like check downs because of pressure or something, has there been much throwing, like design throws to the back?
Amount, yeah, a good amount. Oh, we did. Keegan and I were joking today that today was check down Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of check downs today.
Yeah. There was a lot of check downs in the practice I was at too. So
yeah. But I think it will be something that they use maybe a little more than last year. I think these guys are a little more suited to it. The guy, Pryor and Williams are a little more suited to that than we didn't see it really a lot with Ryan Montgomery. We didn't really see it a lot with.
I think that's the unfortunate part was Monty dealt with, injury. I mean, I think he was a great receiving back, but it was just hard to. I mean, that part of, like we talked about with the middle and other variations of the pass game last year, it's tough to. It's just tough to look back at that and think that there was, where the success was truly coming from.
Yeah. So, and then look, man, I think maybe, and especially potentially in like goal line situations and stuff, Victor Dawson's good. Like,
oh yeah,
for a walk-on running back, the kid's got some oomph to him. He has been the goal line back. Now they're not using Corey for obvious reasons in those situations, and you would imagine down near the goal line you're going to get a heavy dose of Corey Kiner, but it's good to know you've got a back in the stable that like that is his thing.
I'm open to any and all options in short yardage this year after what we watched last year.
Agreed. If you got a guy specializes in it and like wants the ball in those type situations and can execute, give him the ball. Like, I don't care if he's a walk-on. He's pretty good. Running back.
Jack Griffin special right there, Merrimack.
Yep. Running back, I would say stock is about as expected. Like,
yeah.
I don't think we have seen that. If they had run the ball a bunch and these guys were constantly in the open field, like running away from defenses, I think that would be a stock up situation. I always like the overrated, underrated, properly rated. I think the running backs were properly rated. Based on what we talked about coming into camp and where we're at now.
Yeah, I would agree.
Offensive line.
That's
Philip Wilder.
That's so hard with you're not running the ball a ton and you're not good. The quarterback isn't live, so it's like, yeah.
Well, we haven't seen the quarterback running for his life a lot.
Yeah,
which could be something we have to discuss a little bit later in this show.
Yeah.
But again, I think offensive line wise, like I haven't seen anything that has given me pause. They have been what you expect from a veteran offensive line. I'd say it where the stock up would probably come from is the second unit has been better than in years past. And there have been a lot of times, Dave, where it was like if one guy goes down on this line,
oh yeah,
there's going to be trouble. And do I think that the second unit is anywhere near as good as the first? No. I do think there's a potential star in that second unit, though.
Yeah.
Can you guess who?
Jonathan Harder.
Yes, sir. That is a massive human.
I mean, I noted that when I was there. I was like, that is what power four guards look like.
Yeah. I mean, he is a redshirt sophomore.
6'4", 330.
Yeah, redshirt sophomore, 6'4", 330.
That's what they look like.
Shoulders are as big as like the view on this screen. And he's been impressive in the times that I've kind of focused on him. It was good to hear Nick Cardwell talk about the step that Ethan Green has taken, because I know there was some worry, like when is that going to show up for him last year, because it hadn't shown up yet. But then this spring and into the summer, things have clicked for Ethan Green. You've got Xavier Lozowicki there. I think Evan Tengestal is going to be good. He's got to get his snaps up. He had a couple days so far in camp where the snaps have been a little lower than desired. But that's something, he's new to the position. That's something he's going to have to continue to work on as he develops behind Gavin Gerhardt. But, you've got a couple tackles, you've got a couple promising guards, you've got a young center. Like, all of a sudden, you start to feel good about the pipeline at offensive line, and that doesn't include Pastoriza and Clark, some of these younger guys that that are working their way up through the system.
How do we feel about, obviously Philip Wilder has kind of taken over the right tackle spot. How has John Williams been? I think last year the tackles were from, especially in pass protection. We're not breaking any news here. Like, how do you think they have looked? Given the fact, and this is, given the fact, and we'll get to the defense shortly, but like, given the fact of everything that's been going on along the defensive line, taking that into account, how do you think the tackles have been in pass protection specifically?
Solid. Like I said, we haven't seen a lot of like free run at the quarterback from edge rushers, or
Right.
The ball is snapped and 2 seconds later a guy is exiting stage right because there's a guy blazing unblocked, or the guy made one move and got past the tackle and is coming for your quarterback. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. So, it's what they say about offensive line. Like, the less you notice them,
sure,
the better the job is. And I really don't
I don't want to know any of those guys.
Right. I don't remember like a day where I was just like, man, this guy is getting beat like a drum.
Right.
That said, there's no Maije to play the drums. So it's you don't know yet until you get one of those like all conference defensive ends coming off the edge. I think that's when we're going to find out like how Bill, and I'm sure Pitt always has pass rushers.
They did. They all transferred to Colorado.
Did they really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But I haven't had like extended stretches where I'm like, okay, like this guy's having a bad day.
Right. Where it's blatantly we haven't had any Jackson Carman moments.
Right, where there's 4 holds in like 3 series. So yeah, I would say offensive line, I would give the second unit a stock up. Because I think that's something that we just haven't seen here for a long ass time, where you felt there was confidence in that unit. I mean, Dave, you remember there's been multiple years where that second unit is like walk on, like,
oh yeah,
like, that's not to disparage the walk-ons, but I think you would rather not look out there in your second unit and there's 2 or 3 walk-ons littering. You're not going to get lucky and have Garrett Campbell waiting in your walk-on group every year.
No. I mean, we've certainly gone into years when we thought we were going to have a very, very good team where you are squinting to find like 7 dudes that you feel comfortable about. So, I think we're in a fairly good spot when it comes to depth and the front line at this stage of camp.
Well, and let me be clear about something. For most of those guys, if any of them get put in, none of them have significant college snaps. Like, there is going to be a learning curve. It is not a plug and play.
No.
If something happens to Luke Kandra, and DeAndre Buford is there at guard to kind of give you a
they
veteran
at least
guy
have some mixing and matching, and that's the benefit of having so many guys returning, is that at least, before it was like, this guy is starting for the first time, and if the guy next to him gets hurt, then we're putting a guy in who's like never played, so you have a brand new starter who's maybe like a, I don't know, redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior, coupled with an even younger player who's never played. Right. Now, at least, like, if a guy gets hurt or something, you can do some shifting, and the guy you're bringing in, if it's on the interior, is at least
a veteran on each side.
A veteran, or if you have to play a super young guy, there's going to be somebody else likely around them to kind of help them out and take off some of that pressure.
Yeah, and my talk about the second unit is more for the future of this offensive line. Because there have been many times we've also sat here at the end of a season and went, better find some dudes.
Well, yeah,
Better find some dudes.
I don't know Philip Wilder's status if if he would have another year or not. But let's just say he doesn't. I mean, you're very
I don't
likely.
think he does.
So you're very likely replacing at least 6 offensive linemen, 5 starters, and your first guy off the bench on the interior, more than likely. A program like UC is not just going into the portal and buying like 4 new starting offensive linemen for
Right.
2025. So the Ethan Greens and Evan Tengestalls and Jonathan Harders, they have to pan out. Like they have to be the guys, plus somebody else likely. Xavier Lewicki is probably that that one of those guys.
Yeah. And Bubert's a junior,
okay,
so
yeah.
if you need him next year at guard, or if you
so
a potential
it makes
tackle.
I thought he was older, so that makes me feel a slight bit better. But it's like you're just not going to go out and be like, hey, we need to find 3 starters in the portal that can like play Big 12 football on day one. It's not super realistic. So you better recruit well and be able to develop. And I do like where things stand. I know Aiden Pastoriza got his black shirt yesterday. But him and Zach Clark both look the part. They have a long way to go still in filling out and learning the positions. But like Evan, Jonathan Harder, Ethan Green, those 2 guys, like you can truly start to see like what if this is going to work, and if we're going to take a step this year and have some good momentum going into 2025. Like you can start to see a solid framework of what an offensive line room should look like with high school kids, and not having to do the whole we need 5 guys in the portal type thing.
Yeah. You're not going to find, there's not a lot of Dino Boyds out there to just come save your ass one year, like as you're entering camp.
No,
it's not
well,
how
it's a different, if it's a different world now. Like, if you're a G5 really good offensive lineman and you're transferring up to the highest level.
Right.
So you're, at UC's level, you're doing a Xavier Lewicki type of move, and under the radar Lozowicki coming up from FCS, or you're taking the chance on a drop down, like a high level P4 guy who has not played yet that wants to get on the field, which you don't know anything about him. Like you don't know if he can play or not. He might have been blocked by a really good player and might be really good, or
he might not have been good enough.
Right. Yeah, the ones.
Or they watched him every day for 2 years, and they were like, "I can't put him on the field."
Yeah, the ones that I always laugh about when they enter the portal and they talk about how they were a 2019 4-star. I'm like, well, that's 2024.
It's 2024.
That's a little dated, so maybe like 2021 4-star. But it's like, if you were that good, you would have found a way to get on the field within 3 years of being at your school.
You know what coaches don't do? They don't sit really good offensive linemen.
No. So
that's just not a position that guys end up on the bench for an extended period of time. If the coach is watching and going, this guy can help us, we're just not going to play him.
Yeah. So I think it's trending in a good direction, I think.
Yeah. You want to do wide receiver or tight end next?
Whichever. Doesn't matter.
We did offensive line. We'll do tight end.
I will be shocked. Just put Joe Royer in bubble wrap until August 31st. Like, he does not need to practice anymore.
You know how Brent loves superlatives.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, absolutely.
It is his favorite thing.
He had to be on the he had to have been on the high school journalism staff so he could write the senior superlatives for every person in his high school.
He probably was on that staff like as a freshman.
I was an honor
junior. Senior, he did the superlatives for every class for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He is going to ask me Monday who was the MVP of camp, and right now, it's not a competition.
No, doesn't seem like it.
It's not a competition. Joe Royer has been so much better than even the loftiest of like expectations.
I mean, I'll be completely honest. And if you read the board, you know this. I did not understand the move when they added him. I will fully.
Tennessee was recruiting him, and you're like, what? What? I don't get it.
Didn't see it. Didn't understand it. Now, that's all well and good in August. Can we do it in September and October and November? I don't see why not. I'm not saying that this is fool's gold or anything. But if he can do what he's been doing, to not even to the same, I mean, you have so many more plays in practice, so it's like,
sure.
And in different settings, you beat the guy in 7-on-7, you have some 1-on-1, some 11-on-11 stuff. But like if he could be a legitimate receiving option, whether it's the second, third, fourth, I don't care. But if the tight end in this offense can be a true receiving option, it changes everything about how this offense operates.
Yeah.
Because he's not a go line up way out wide.
He can.
He can, but I don't think that's where we're going to just like plant him a lot of the time. And like box out the smaller DBs. Like he's going to work the intermediate stuff off line of scrimmage, beat linebackers with speed, beat safeties with size, and that just opens up the outside and opens up the running game because he's in there in line. You have to play him as if he's going to go out for a pass.
Yeah, because he's going to.
So that linebacker or safety cannot be mugged up because they know he's just going to block because it's just going to be a run play. So they have to back off. And then when it is a run play to the power side, if he's the only tight end in the formation or if it's, two tights, it just changes how you play offense. Look at the NFL. Look at how the Chiefs and the 49ers can play offense because they have a legitimate receiving weapon tight end.
Yeah, that's not rail thin. It's not like a 6'7" wide receiver, essentially. Like Royer, he's not going to be in line blocking a lot. Let's be honest about that. They're not going to be, running off of his side of the line of scrimmage all that often. He's going to be out running routes more often than not. But to your point, he's going to be like from the slot in.
It's coming from either totally attached or just off of the line. It's not like when they split the wide receiver or the tight end out at the numbers. Like I'm sure they will have that at some point, but that's not I don't think the best way to utilize him and complement how you want to run your offense with him as part of it.
Right. I think that's fair. But he has been outstanding. I mean, what he did to open the scrimmage Saturday, Dave, you might have just walked back to your car at that point. Within the first 8 or 9 plays, he had 3 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen enough. What does he need to be out there practicing for at this point?
Well, they did actually give him most of the entire middle of the scrimmage off.
Because he was tired from running up and down the field.
And then they brought him back in when they did red zone stuff later, and then he scored 2 more touchdowns in the red zone.
I guess that's a good point to bring up because we belabored red zone last year so much, and just whether it was the plays or the players, there was a lot of issues in that whole gamut. How do we feel about red zone? What have you seen red zone specific, whether it's tight ends, wide receivers, run game? Do you see anything different? Is it a lot of the same stuff, but it's just different guys? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I've seen a lot of the same stuff, just executed better. Just, with a quarterback that's able to stand in and kind of, be a little bit more, to allow the play to develop a little bit more, I guess. Like there's not this urgency that the play has to develop in the first 2 seconds. And if not, then the quarterback is just going to run for his life and hope that he can, get the ball to the end zone, because guess what, Dave, that didn't work. That was not an effective strategy
Right.
or an effective system a season ago. So, Sorsby's willing to stand in there. I think you have guys that are a little bit like I think Tyron Smith is really good at getting open in those short areas. I think you can do a little bit more, maybe like I don't want to say gadget, but like you can try to run a jet sweep and get Aaron Turner, on the edge in those tighter situations. Um, so and guess what? That allows the box to be opened up a little bit. So teams aren't just saying we're not going to let you give the ball to Corey Kiner and score on us. And hopefully that'll give Kiner a little bit more space to work in those short quarters, because the linebackers have to beware that if they come up on a play action, if they bite, that Joe Royer's going to be in that level, like right behind them. So, I haven't seen anything that's like, oh man, they're doing a whole lot different. I've just seen a higher level of execution in those situations.
Sure.
And that's a lot of that is, guess what? Tight end. Like,
yeah, I think there's different elements to it that makes this team, gives me hope, gives me a good feeling about red zone this year. Is the running back stable? The way Sorsby runs the ball, I think, is a key compared to how Emery did. There was a lot of plays on the short yardage stuff when Emery would run the ball out of the gun that he would, like, when he would get towards contact, he would just straight up like turn.
Yeah.
So he was never getting that forward falling yard or two. I feel like when Sorsby runs and when they maybe run him on some power stuff down inside the red zone, where you essentially just, he's in the gun or the pistol and you snap the ball and he just takes off around wherever they have the power to, that he's got that running style from what I've seen, and more so that like body build where, not that he's going to lower his shoulder and like take on the defender, but he's built to take the hit and not just be stopped right there. Like he's not going to like necessarily fight for extra yards and break tackles, but if it's
I know what you're saying.
If it's 3rd and 1 and he's met at the line, like he has the type of running style and body structure to kind of absorb that hit and fall forward to pick up that first down, which it felt like so many times last year. It was like, how can we not pick this up? Like it's right there. And Emery would just get stoned essentially right at the line to gain.
Well, if he was getting stoned, that might have been the problem. I'm kidding.
One might say.
I've been really impressed on go back to tight end. I've been really impressed with Francis Sherman. I think he could be a help in that red zone because he is a guy that has got some nasty to him. That's going to go and lay a block and maybe seal the edge on a linebacker to get you into the end zone, or he's going to be in motion and come as an H-back and take the middle linebacker head on and be able to kind of let Kiner work behind. If you're running, you got Kandra pushing the way, and then Francis Sherman like filling in behind Kandra. You would hope that Kiner's going to be able to follow those two.
Well, yeah, I want to see a 6th offensive lineman with 2 tight ends where Sherman comes in short motion, and like as he's behind the center / guard, they snap the ball, and then he's that lead. He's not a fullback lead blocker, but he's kind of that lead blocker behind Kandra, Wilder, another tackle, and a tight end. Like, let's just grind it out.
Right. Whatever you can do to get the damn ball across the goal line.
I mean, that, and I know that's not super realistic, but that's where my frustration lied from how many short yardage plays that they did not execute last year.
Right. And then Joey Belgian is a pass catcher. He's going to be more your between the 20s guy, I think. When we see him, he'll be in passing situations. So maybe some 3rd down stuff to get him the ball. And then, Gavin Grover, I think we'll see Gavin Grover this year quite a bit, but I don't know with those 3 guys ahead of him, I don't know how many times the ball is going to be coming his way.
Right.
But I think you'll see him.
Like if you're better at wide receiver than last year and you're better at tight end than last year, like how many throws does the true freshman 4th tight end really get?
Right. Even if he goes up to 3rd, let's say for whatever reason, like maybe he passes Belgian, and becomes the 3rd tight end. Still, how many times are you really going to be tossing him the ball? And
we'll get halfway through the season and the board will be like, how come they aren't throwing the ball to Grover? We're like, okay, we're doing this.
Well, as long as they're throwing it to Royer, I don't think anybody's going to complain. If he has the camp that he's had, and we get into the season and he's getting 3 targets a game,
I find that hard to believe at this point.
I do too. But I'm saying then we're going to hear, where the hell's Joe Royer?
I mean, I feel like I'm not going out on like a super skinny branch saying that the top target guys this year are going to be Xavier Henderson, Royer, and Tyron Smith in some order.
I think that would be correct. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. I would say stock up on the tight end.
Yeah, I would
considerably.
The tight end position was not very good last year. Wasn't utilized in a great way. Wasn't deep at all. I mean, we were playing a walk-on. I mean, I thought Michael McCammett played pretty well when he was asked to play it, but I mean, we were playing a walk-on a considerable amount last year.
And he is still on the team, and we have not talked about him much.
Right.
Because that's how
much
better the tight end room. Yeah. That's how much better the tight end room is in 2024. So we'll go stock considerably up. Not just up, but like one of those big arrows.
Yeah.
If you're listening on a podcast, I just drew a big arrow. Yeah,
correct.
Like wide receiver. Xavier Henderson's going to be your number 1 guy. And honestly, Dave, we probably haven't talked enough about X in camp because he's been really good. But I think we came in expecting him to be really good, and he has been really good.
I think it's been good to like Sorsby has hit those deep balls to him that we bemoaned so much last year of not being able to connect on. So it's almost like you just look at it and go, okay, that seems to be working, so we don't need to talk about it that much because, like, I mean, he had a very, very solid year last year, all things considered, with the way the passing game was and everybody knowing that he was really the only wide receiver they were going to throw the ball to. And so I don't think there's a lot to speak about him at this stage. It's more so let's get in the games and see how everybody else helps him. Like, that was the problem last year. He was good, but he wasn't. The whole setup wasn't good enough for him to help anybody else. Now I feel like the collective might be good enough to help him not see the type of coverages that he got last year.
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier to complete those balls over the top if the safety's not the entire time going, all right, if I see him get past 12 yards, like they're trying to go over the top.
Yeah, I mean, they would just drop a safety on his side because they weren't worried about the area that safety was vacating.
Right. There was nothing over the middle of consequence. So you just dedicate a safety to him and you have the safety reading. Do they hand the ball off or do I go double Xavier Henderson?
Yeah.
Like one of the two. Number 2 wide receiver is interesting because I think Jamoy Mays had a really good start to camp, and he's been good throughout. I thought Tony Johnson, who had a foot injury at the end of camp, at the end of spring ball, and missed the end of spring ball, I think it took him a little extra time to get back into rhythm, but he has been coming on since the scrimmage on Saturday. I thought he had a decent scrimmage, and then we've seen him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day. You know, he seems to be showing up a lot more than he was. Because I know, like Friday, I think Keegan and I had the conversation of, man, we haven't Like, we like Tony Johnson, but we haven't written him down a lot.
Yeah.
Through the first half of camp. And then, he's picked it up a little bit on that second half. So I don't think you're going to see one of those guys become like, right up there with Henderson and Royer as like a main guy. But I think the combination of both of them, because I think we're going to see both of them a lot.
That spot to me is probably offensively is the most wait and see thing. Like, I need to see it. I need to see it because, granted, I'm not going to but like, I kind of felt okay. I went into last year thinking that Donovan Ollie and D. Wiggins could kind of be that combination, and that certainly did not pan out. So,
well, they never played Donovan Ollie,
right? Well, D. Wiggins couldn't
offensively, D. Wiggins was the biggest disappointment on the roster last year.
Yeah.
Given his like pedigree and what we thought he could be opposite Xavier Henderson, we didn't get hardly anything from D. Wiggins a season ago.
Right. And I do agree with you that I think it's like a combo platter type thing. Like, each guy, if they can, 20, 25 catches, then you've got 40, 50 catches out of your number two. You're going to get probably 60, 70 catches out of Xavier Henderson. You're probably going to get maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe a little bit more top end from Tyron Smith and maybe a little bit less from Aaron Turner, but still in that like 40 to 50 range. And then whatever you get from from Royer. I think that's kind of what you're looking at is like your main 250 to 300 completions. Probably looking at a split somewhat like that. I do think that they have helped I would give a total group stock up to the overall speed of the wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Even though we're not quite sure on Mays and Johnson and how that's going to shake out, I think they're both positioned to be more athletic, have more speed than what we had in the room as a total last year.
Well, better hands and better route running.
Yeah.
And, even if it's not just top end speed, like those two guys are both going to, I think, be solid. So whichever one is on the field, I think you're going to be confident, like they can get open and they can make a play when you throw them the ball. Do I think they're going to be, do I think either one of them is going to have 50, 60 catches on the year? No.
No, because I don't think that's the way this offense is set up.
I don't think so either. But again, like if the safety is rolling over towards, you got one safety shading Henderson, you got one safety playing the run, those two guys have to win.
Yeah. Your tight ends and your tight ends and your number two receiver have to win one-on-ones.
Yeah. And in the slot, I think they're good. I really like Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith is my most intriguing offensive player this year.
Yeah, I really like what Aaron Turner has had a good camp. And then Barry Jackson, who might be the most talented of the bunch, is your third guy at this point.
Yeah, I think Tyron Smith gives them an element that they absolutely did not have last year. And has the ability to do things that I think really hurt the offense last year, in that there were no easy completions outside of a 7-yard hook route to Xavier Henderson
that he ran 1,000 times.
Right. And there's no yak on that. Like, Tyron Smith has the ability to, yes, he can give you the easy completion on first down that makes it 2nd and 3, which felt like we very rarely had last year. But he also gives you the ability to run past guys and also make guys miss and turn that 7-yard completion into a 15-yard completion. I would love to go back and look at like how many plays we had in like the 15 to 30-yard range. It feels like there were almost none.
Yeah, I think Braden Smith had a decent season, but he just wasn't consistent.
No, and again, quarterback, like, it's hard to be consistent at wide receiver if your quarterback and your offensive line are inconsistent. So if those things sync up, then, but I think Tyron Smith, he went to Texas A&M for a reason. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there. and he never actually played for them. Went back to UTEP and then transferred to UC. But like after his ridiculous, I guess it would have been 2022 season. I mean, he went to A&M, didn't play, then went back to UTEP for 2023. Like, there's a reason that they wanted him.
Yeah.
So, how do we get those guys the ball? Are we using more motion? Are we using more jet sweeps, jailbreak screens? Like, just different ways to get him, Aaron Turner, Barry Jack. I mean, any of these wide receivers, like, different, better ways to get them the ball in space and not be so static. Felt like things were very static last year. Like, you went to the line, Emory got the snap. If Xavier Henderson's route wasn't there, it was almost run every time.
Check X, look at the hot route, run. Like,
very easy to defend when you're giving the defense a static look every time. So, like, do we see more motion? Do we see more plays out of them? I mean, you don't have to give the ball to the guy, but like, are you moving pieces around more this year? Are you throwing it to backs more? Are you throwing it to tight ends more? Like, just giving more looks is how this offense, because I'm still not sure the overall talent is like top half of Big 12, but you can, if it's a little bit better or margin or more than a little bit better, and you can scheme things to be top half of the Big 12.
Yeah. I'll go stock up. I mean, I need to still see it. I'm not going considerably up, but there are definitely more bodies, more options.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has had a solid camp. And like I said, I would have, if things would have continued, I would have said, I want to see more from Tony Johnson, but then he started picking it up. So that's not as much of a factor as it would have been 4 or 5 days ago. But other than that, I really like Jamoy Mays. I really like Smith and Turner. If there's a complaint, it's that maybe they don't have a guy behind Henderson, but whoever, if there was, still going to be a considerable drop off from Henderson.
Yeah.
So stock up there, and offense as a whole. I think this offense should be pretty good. Do I think it's going to be the best offense in the Big 12? No. But do I think it's an offense with an outstanding running game, a promising quarterback that has a bunch of different guys he can throw to? Yes.
It just
behind a veteran offensive line.
It can't have the disparity of being like one of the best running games in the country and then one of the worst passing games in the conference.
Right.
Because we saw last year, they ran the ball. They would run 90 plays a game. But you're not going to 4-yard, 5-yard yourself down the field.
Yeah.
So the passing game
is not going to happen.
The passing game has to be, I don't know, 8th best, 10th best. Like it does, because that at least complements the running game. Last year, the running game was whatever, top 5 in the league because you had West Virginia ran the hell out of it. UCF ran the hell out of it. Kansas was great running it. So, like,
I think Cincinnati finished 6th in the country and 3rd in the conference.
Oklahoma State ran the hell out of it. So, like, you're going to have really, really good running teams again this year. So, can you have a top 5 run game and a top 10 pass game versus a top 5 run game and the 15th best passing game in the conference?
Right. All right, let's take a quick break and do a Turtles Brew timestamp here. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have lemonade tea, strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's over 100 locations throughout Ohio, 50-plus locations in Cincinnati. If you'd like to find out how to get Turtles Brew and where to get Turtles Brew, all you have to do is go to turtlesbrew.com, put in your zip code. They will give you the location nearest you. And as always, a portion of the proceeds go to save the sea turtles. Whew. Jim Kelly mentioned he thought this could be the best bubble screen team since the BK teams. there will never be a bubble screen as effective as Marty Gilliard.
No.
None. Ever. Every time they threw it, I thought it was 6.
Just crush teams on it.
I thought it was 6 every time. And most of the time, it was 6.
Yeah.
Can you believe last week we didn't even talk about the Hall of Fame? We just skipped over it, forgot.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
It was announced that day.
We're old.
And we got done.
We forget things.
We got done. And I was like, all right, Aaron, what the hell are we going to talk about? And he was like, the Hall of Fame. And I was like, oh, shit.
I was saving that for the nightcap.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's very kind of you.
Yeah.
It produced a very good nightcap. Let's go to defense. Defensive line.
I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, you brought in you didn't have enough size last year. You didn't have enough pass rush last year. You brought in Micah Coleman, who fits the size specs. What, 6'4",
and hopefully the pass rush spec.
Right, 6'4", 6'5", 265. Jalen Hunt, Scott said he was playing some end and nose, so another size factor had really turned the corner in the spring and carried that through. I mean, you're looking at you're very much projected. What I would guess would have been the projected, like in a 3-3-5, the top 4 defensive linemen were probably going to be Coleman, Corleone, Eric Phillips, and Jalen Hunt.
Yeah,
you are down 2, and 1 is still TBD.
In limbo, yeah. And by the way, Randy, hold 1 second. You're completely wrong. Isaiah P. did not make the BK offense go. Marty Gilliard made the BK offense go. Let's not get it twisted. Isaiah P. was awesome. He only played 1 year for BK. And he did not make that offense go. Marty Gilliard did. Period. End of story. I'm not having any more discussion on this. The numbers game, it's not great right now. It's just not great. And
no, you're 3 of your 4 of what you thought were going to be like your main off defensive linemen. 3 of the 4 guys, 2 aren't playing, and 1 we're not sure. We're hopeful, but
yeah,
like there's no other way to go about it but to say that, like, in a situation that you already had concerns about because of the lack of ability to stop the run and get pressure on the quarterback last year, you brought in the reinforcements. One of the guys that was on the roster took a big jump. The reinforcements and the guy that you thought was taking a big jump are not going to play.
They're out. They're done.
So there's no other way to be like,
It quite simply goes like this, Dave. If Corleone can play a large majority of the games, I think they can be okay. If not,
I still don't even know if they can be okay. I'm not going that far. I think
I didn't say they were going to be good. I said okay. High pick.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I just know what they're going to be going up against from teams wanting to run the football, and
yeah, that's I look. That was my biggest concern when camp started. It ain't better now. It certainly ain't better now.
No, it's worse.
Significantly worse.
So yeah, I mean, maybe the linebackers being better and guys like Golday and Barrett they do have some experience pressuring the quarterback and kind of coming up and playing in more of like a 2-point stance, whether it's on the edge or over a guard or something. Maybe they can disguise some things a little bit differently, but in the just straight up, like, man on man, like, hey, it's 3rd and 1, we gonna run it, you got to stop it. I'm not feeling great.
Right. No, there's not a lot of feeling great about the defensive line right now.
And we can be as bullish on all the new guys in the secondary we want, but
look, go watch Scott Satterfield today. We've asked about the freshman lineman a bunch, freshman defensive lineman a bunch. he keeps coming back to the same thing. You know what he says every time?
They're freshmen.
We think Marquez Parker is going to be able to help us.
Yeah.
That should tell you what you need to know about the other two.
And that's
They're
where
freshman defensive linemen.
Period stops.
Freshman defensive linemen, it's like freshman offensive linemen. It's very rare to have one that physically comes in and is ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, are they, because of the injuries and Dante's status, are they gonna have to play? They might have to play 5 snaps a game, 10 snaps a game, but I think they're going to try to figure out ways to circumvent that. I think that's like a potentially this is our last option. Like, we just have to have more 285-pound, 300-pound bodies in there, and it doesn't matter if they're freshmen. Like, we just can't. We're not getting it done with all these other ways that we're trying to do it, and we just need more tonnage at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, and look, Dave, on the outside, like they need 2 guys. They need a Darian Varner and a Rob Jackson to give them quality. You know what I don't think I've done at camp, Dave?
I don't know if you've written Rob Jackson's name down one time.
I don't think I have. I think Varner a couple times. I think Jackson 0. I don't recall 99 flashing at all this camp.
It is a concern. Because,
yeah,
I mean, again, maybe Tyson Vite's scheme unlocks some things in the pressure game, but I mean, outside of the Pitt game last year, not a lot of pressure. A lot of the same guys back. A lot of guys that were coming back not going to be playing. Brian Sims is now an outside linebacker at under 230 pounds. Yeah. So, looks very good at what he's being asked to do, but like, we don't have Rob Jackson's pretty much it in the frame of the like 6'5", 260, 270 edge guy.
Yeah. And I don't recall writing his name down once in camp. Hopefully, Cam Wilson is back. He was dinged up a little bit. He's back. Cam Rutherford is working his way back after having the Heat episode early last week. He is back out there. He's in an orange jersey. He is not full go yet. So stock down.
Stock down.
I don't know how else to say. I don't know how much more time we can spend on it. It doesn't look real promising. If we walk away from this season saying the defensive line was okay, it is going to be a surprise. Walt Stewart will have done his best coaching job yet. And that's unfortunate because I know Walt was really excited for this group when everybody was healthy.
Yeah.
I think, Harris Adams is a guy that he's going to have to play a big role. If Corleone's not back early.
I mean, Harris Adams is at this point, Dante has not done any team work.
Correct.
2.5 weeks before the first game. Like, I don't think I'm talking out of school saying that I'm expecting Harris Adams to be the starting nose against Townsend.
I don't know, like Keelan Smith, who's a walk-on. No, he's a big boy.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. He didn't play against the 3rd-round draft pick last year and played pretty well.
Yeah,
like Harris Adams did. So like I feel pretty good in saying that he's probably your starting nose week 1.
And I think they were looking at him as like a 10, 15 snap guy.
Yeah, a nice compliment with him and Jalen Hunt. Nice compliments to back up Dante.
Right. There's far more questions than answers on that group, which it sucks because I think we feel pretty good about the rest of the roster. But that's a pretty damn important part of the roster. Yeah, stopping the run, getting after the quarterback. That's where those things are generated.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Bartlett and Jake Golday are going to be used to go after the quarterback, I think, a lot.
Which, I mean, I'm fine with that because they have high athletic ability and they've done it a lot. I mean, Jared Bartlett's a multiple, 4, 5, 6 sack guy pretty much every year he's been at.
Yeah.
Was at West Virginia. So, yeah. But I don't think that was probably the plan going in.
Right.
Was probably like we'll sprinkle, we'll do a little sprinkle drip of that here and there in key situations, but now I think that's going to be like a much more integral part of how that front plays.
Yeah. Linebacker. I feel great about linebacker. I feel as good about linebacker as I've felt in a little while. Bartlett, Golday, Dingle, Simeon Coleman, I'm forgetting Jonathan Thompson. Brian Sims, who has looked excellent. I think could end up maybe being the starter.
Monte Whedon
has flashed a little bit at camp. 7, 8 guys at linebacker, I feel pretty damn good about. Like that's a really strong room right now.
Yep.
All right. Secondary. It kind of sucks because I really would have been interested to see how they could have used Bartlett and Golday if the defensive line was what we thought it was going to be. Like they still would have been used in pass rushing situations, but with their length and athleticism, I think you could have got creative with those two guys and done a lot of things with them. Now I think they're going to be doing a lot of pass rushing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree. We'll see. I mean, I don't think you're going to get a great idea. Townsend's not going to present much of an idea. Pitt offensively, we'll see. They have a brand new scheme. Like we'll see, week 2, I think Narduzzi will still be okay with their. I mean, they are going. I don't know if you know this. Like they hired Cade Bell, who was one of the best offensive coordinators in the FCS the last few years, at I think Western Carolina. They're going from like Narduzzi being mad that the offensive coordinator, when they had Kenny Pickett, like threw so much, to now they're going to be running an offense that is essentially air raid. Super tempo, throw the ball. So this is like last year's film. Don't even bother looking at that with Pitt. It's right. It's totally different. New quarterback, it's all totally different now. So we'll get an idea there because they're going to throw it and they're going to play fast.
Yeah. Will they be good at it? Do they have a quarterback that's not a tight end?
Yes, I think this guy has always been a quarterback.
Okay.
And
the other guy was a quarterback by label.
Yeah, by the offensive coordinator at BC who Pat hired last year and then fired, or two years ago or whatever.
You thought this is a quarterback?
Yeah.
Get out. Get out. Don't take your nameplate with you, sir.
Yeah. How do we, Jordan Young struggled last year, seems to have found himself.
Are we moving to defensive backs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
okay.
I think we're good at linebacker. Like we kind of know. We know Jack Dingle. We know Jonathan Thompson. The young guys we like, but I mean, let's be real. Once we get into Big 12 play, how much do we really expect to get out of them? Bartlett and Golday are nice pieces. Do we have to use them in more of a pass rush situation than a true linebacker situation? The depth is 10 times better than it was last year. I mean, that was a mess last year. Jack Dingle was forced to play hurt because there legitimately was not anybody else that could play.
Right. Okay. I'll go stock up on linebackers. Do we separate corners and safeties? You
I
want to
think
start
so.
with corners?
I think so
Start with
because
corners.
I think so. Because
That's your question. I've got a
is at
tinkle.
corner.
I will be listening to your question so that I don't pee my pants here at the desk.
Okay. Will it still work? Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, I have headphones. They're wireless.
Well, I know. Okay, I didn't know how far the signal worked, but my question is, corner number 2. How do we feel there? Oh yeah, this is going swimmingly.
What a question. That was such an in-depth, deep question by you, Dave.
I mean, why do I need to use 20 words when 5 will do?
Because he needed you to filibuster.
Philip. So let's see here. We have Jordan Young, who had a tumultuous first season with the Bearcats and has since seems to have rebounded and had a good offseason, and probably has that corner number 1 position taken care of. I think it's a bigger question of corner number 2, Kalen Carroll, or Monty Arnold, probably. Is my guess there, right? Is that
yeah? I think it'll be Arnold. He's had a really good camp.
And then I guess we've talked a lot about, and a lot of was made of the Strong Shot Rain videos and what Nico said about Jordan Young and his own self-reflective comments, but like in camp talking football, how has he looked? Like, because I think that stuff maybe has kind of papered over a little bit of the actual on the field stuff over the last 2 weeks. Do you see a different guy like in playing football?
Yes. I mean, think about it. He's getting Xavier Henderson a good deal. Like, he's not on him all the time, but he's getting Xavier Henderson a good deal, and he's putting up a good fight with him. There have been days where Jordan Young has gotten the best of Xavier Henderson. So I think he's having a good camp. He's again, it's one of those things. Like, I think the less you notice a cornerback, the better, because you're not looking at the back of his jersey as the guy running into the end zone scorches past him. So we haven't seen a whole lot of that, which I think was, getting beat over the top was a major issue. I haven't seen pass interference a whole lot where they're, just, I got beat and I'm going to grab the guy so he doesn't score a touchdown. So I think Jordan Young has played well. I think he has earned that number 1 corner spot. And then I think, Ormani Arnold and Kalen Carroll have both had good days here, like sprinkled in. I think Ormani Arnold has had more. I think Arnold, even though he's a little bit smaller, is a physical dude, more physical than I kind of thought coming in. He's not afraid. If there's a play out on the teams like to run these wide screens, wide receiver screens, like all the, get the ball all the way out on the boundary, and you're trying to isolate that corner. And, I've got one guy to beat. If I can beat him, I can get 15, 20 yards. I thought he's been a good tackler. He's made some plays over the middle, and he's physical. And I think at that field spot, that's where a lot of that action goes, is out to, that's the wide side. I think he has done a good job holding his own out there, when they've tried to isolate that wide side of the field for extra yards. He has come up and made a bunch of plays. And I think he's had, he's usually the one on either Mays or Tony Johnson. And, he's had really good days against those guys. So I'm confident in saying Arnold is your number 2 corner. Carroll is your number 3. I'm not sure who's your number 4.
You don't really have a slot in this defense, do you?
No, because there's 3 safeties.
Right. So you're really only talking 2 corners. When Carroll comes in, which side does he typically play?
Field. Gravy Johnson and Jordan Robinson, the transfer from Kentucky, are the guys that have been working boundary behind Jordan Young.
Okay.
They have been okay.
Sure. I mean,
You know, Gravy has had early, I thought, was better than he has been.
True.
Haven't noticed him as much late. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jordan Robinson, I think, has all the traits you like to see, but it's, you know, it's a new defense, and you know, he got picked on a little bit the past couple of days. He's had a summer. We'll just leave it at that. But I mean, he was projected to be a contributor for Kentucky this year, so you hope that he can be a contributor for us.
And remember, he did not get the full summer.
No, he
did not get here until right before camp.
Right before camp. So I mean, not only did he not have spring, he didn't really have summer conditioning. He didn't have the summer weight program. He didn't have any. You know, he's been really just back into playing football for what, 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. So not surprising that he's knocking some rust off.
Yeah.
But I feel comfortable to 3. Somebody's gonna have to earn that boundary back up to Jordan Young. Now, hopefully you don't need it, but depth at corner, I feel okay about what they're gonna start. Again, Marvin Lewis, see better than I hear. Let's go out and prove that last year was not a accurate representation of that room. Go make some plays. But depth, I really Goodwin, Daniel James, you know, the bevy of young guys that they brought in, I think have bright futures. Gravy. But
yeah, I mean, that was probably the part of that class that I liked the most, was just all the different secondary guys. But I wasn't saying it for the 2024 season.
Right. Those guys still have a ways to go. Now, Carey's coaching them hard. I've seen him blow up Gravy. I've seen him blow up Willie Goodwin. Seen him blow up Daniel James a little bit. Not as much maybe as the other two. But, you know, those guys have bright futures. It's going to be, you know, and DJ Taylor, I think, is probably better suited as a special teams guy, even though they're not really using him to return punts or kicks. You know.
Sure.
Safety, I feel there is as much improvement at safety year over year than any other position on the roster. We were talking about that Monday night. I will go to my grave with safety has been improved more than any spot on the roster.
I would tend to agree.
They were awful.
The depth especially. I mean,
yes.
We have to be, we try to be real and critical without being, I feel like you can be right. But let's be real. Last year, Brian Threats
had a bad year.
Taj Ward
was a really good backup nickel corner.
Antoine Peak Jr. and DJ Taylor. Those were the 4 safeties that played last year. Now maybe somebody else played a little bit at the end or whatever, but those were the main 4 guys.
It wasn't
to go from that to what I think they've gone to now, front line and depth.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I'm excited to hopefully see a whole bunch of plays being made out of whoever's back there.
And they have. We have seen plays consistently from Minkins, from Canteen, from Mekhi Miller, from my guy Logan Wilson has made a bunch of plays. Trey Gala-Collard has been coming on as he has adjusted and kind of found his groove. Kai Stokes has made some plays. You still have Peak back there. Now is like a wily veteran, Antoine Peak Jr. He has made some plays. And then Sanks and Marquavius Sabor. Both of those dudes are if you Dave, if you told me realistically, and I like Mekhi Miller, I think he's going to be good. If you told me Sanks was starting by the end of the year, I wouldn't bat an eyelash.
Yeah.
I think he's got a chance to be that good. And Sabor is the only I have one worry with Marquavius Sabor.
He's going to injure himself.
Yes. He is listed 6 foot 180. He thinks he's 215. He will hit and put every ounce of whatever, energy he has into it, and he will hit you.
He's he's a high end athlete. I mean, a great high school track guy, long jumper, triple jumper, whatever it was that he did. I mean, one of the best in the state of Georgia. So, yeah, I mean, if he could stay in that weight room and get up to 190, 195, 200, I mean, and keep that
I think he has to play at
ability.
210. Like, I genuinely think he has to. The way he likes to hit, he's going to need as much armor as he can get because he is physical.
Well, good. Hopefully he just spends the whole year with Nico. And they don't have to play him.
They might just leave him at higher ground. I think the Mennonites are coming out next.
Okay.
And he's going to do. Did I tell you what the Mennonites do when they go out there?
No, I have no idea.
They do search and rescue.
Okay.
So they take and they just hide like a mannequin or whatever deep in the woods at higher ground. And then they send a team out to go find it and rescue it and bring it back. And we're gonna leave Sabor out there to eat while they're off doing whatever it is that they're doing. Just gonna sit in the mess hall and eat.
I mean, I could just tell him what I ate my freshman year of college. I'd get him up to 215 real quick.
I don't think he's allowed to drink that much.
Oh no, it wasn't. I mean, it was just like, hey, it's 2-for-1 tacos at Taco Bell tonight. Let's go get 50. Like,
there was also 50 beers involved with that as well.
Yeah, I was not 21 when I was a freshman in college.
Oh, okay, yeah, you definitely weren't drinking when you first got to college. Definitely
Never.
not.
No,
I believe you.
No, Tennessee is a dry campus, sir. There is no drinking on campus.
Sure. You didn't drink your whole college career.
I didn't say that. Did not say that. I was there a long time, so I was certainly over 21 at some point. I'm excited about safety. Like that was when I went to practice. I'm not going to say the first thing I wanted to see, but it was up there in like.
It was the first thing I wanted to see when camp started. I mean, it was. I spent a couple days watching safety. Do
these guys look the part? Are they the size, the athletic ability, the speed, the ball skills, the playmaking? Like, so, I mean, again, last year, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like, did not force a lot of turnovers. Did not give the offense a lot of short fields.
Did not play well in run support. No. Playing forward. Did not play well in pass support. Playing backwards.
Yeah. So, I feel good. Whoever's the starters are, I mean, feels like we're kind of, we're getting kind of locked into those three guys. But, the good part about it is the guys that are next up are also making plays. It's not like we're saying that these new three guys are great, but we don't really know what is going to happen with anybody after them.
Yeah.
That seems to be in a good spot as well, especially if you're going to use three safeties. You need to, it's kind of dumb luck, I would guess, that they were so aggressive at safety in the portal before they made a coaching change.
You know what it was? We need a whole new safety room.
Yeah. They had two guys coming back. Peak and DJ Taylor were the only safeties.
They could have had 7 guys coming back and they would have needed a whole new safety
right, but
room.
I'm just saying, like, they had 2 guys. So, yeah, it didn't really matter what defense you were going to run. You needed a bunch more guys.
Yeah.
Not counting freshmen.
And would they have, if they weren't playing 3 safeties, maybe they don't bring in Trey Collard in the summer, but they knew, we still, now that we've got 3, we could use another body or two, so they went out and
Well,
did that.
and the 3 guys that are starting more than likely are also going to be in their last year. So if you're going to have 3 safeties moving forward, you have to have some older
Better
guys
start loading up the room.
Older, but also with older guys that aren't going to graduate.
Yeah.
Like we can't go from like seniors or 5th-year seniors to redshirt freshmen. There needs to be some guys in between there to kind of bridge that gap.
Stock up on safety.
Two thumbs. Stock up. No, don't make me look dumb.
I will say this, Dave. They have unequivocally, unquestionably the best punter room in the country. It is not close. It's not close. Those 2 guys, it's stupid watching them punt every day. But yeah, the brothers Fletcher are both one is a Ray Guy award, a legit potential first team all conference Ray Guy award finalist. The other guy is better.
Just booming balls.
Some of the balls that Max has kicked are like a cartoon. I had said this jokingly many times already. I am kind of the belief he's punting balls that are filled with helium with the hang time that he puts on these things. Every once in a while, you'll just hear a thud and you look up and there's just a football floating through the air.
Well, I don't remember the one I was at. I don't remember if it was which one it was, but someone hit a 60-yarder that was in the air for 9 seconds.
It was probably Max. He is absurd.
They're kicking from well on their own side of the field, and the thing landed at the 10.
Yeah, they are both stupid. And I feel good about Carter Brown. Like, I think he had a good year last year. I like his accuracy. He might not have the biggest leg in the country, but how many times do you need a 53 plus yard
in that series with Dan Horde? Carey talked about it, like trying to stretch him out because we're not going to kick many 55-yarders. They're going to come at the end of the half and at the end of the game, and we need to make them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're not kicking them because, you're going to just go for it or you're going to punt. So if we're going to attempt those types of kicks, we got to make them. So their, goal is to stretch them out a little bit.
Yeah. But I love from 45 and in, he's money. So who's going to return punts? If I had to guess, Masari. Given the drama that we saw at times in that punt return game last year, just put a guy back there that's going to give it one of these, wave his hand, catch the ball, set it down, and let Sorsby and company come get to work.
Yeah, you really don't see a whole lot of punt returns in college anymore. I think last year it wasn't even just like the non-returns. To me, it was even more so like the misplaying of balls, like not.
That's what I mean. Like why I think it's going to be Masari.
It's catching it and letting it bounce 20 yards, or coming up and realizing that you came up too fast and putting your hands up, and then it hits off your hands and BYU recovers it, or a lot of just was very shaky in the punt return game and kickoff game last year. You have the Baylor game that the whole game swung on that touchdown on the kickoff. So
they haven't done a lot of kickoffs, so I don't have a great answer for you on who's going to return kickoffs yet. But I'll get Jeff real quick before we get out of here. Is the roster in basketball set, or is there a real possibility that there could be an NIL defection before the season? The portal's closed, Jeff. So if somebody's going to go transfer, they have to sit. And I can't imagine any of these guys. But one, I can't imagine somebody giving a kid a large sum of money to sit. And why would you leave here to go sit somewhere and not get a large chunk of money? So No, Jeff, I don't think that is. I don't know where that is coming from. Whoever presented that to you as a possibility, you should stop listening to them.
I mean, school starts Monday.
Right. So
I know guys get into school after the initial start date. I mean, that happens all the time. You have a little bit of a grace period, but
it's like 10 days.
Yeah, it seems the portal's not open, so it's not like
right.
They can do that anyway.
And go check the Instagram of some of the players. They have cashed checks. They have cash checks.
I don't think they want to have to pay those back.
All right, David, you got anything else? What I thought was going to be like an hour exercise.
No kidding. We got to like over an hour when we were still on the offense, and in my head, I'm like, I guess this one isn't going to be short.
That's why you gave us three-word answer on linebackers.
That's right.
Trying to shorten the show. We will see you next week. We inch ever closer. No nightcap tonight because we will have a nightcap, a special edition nightcap on Friday after the second scrimmage back at Nippert Stadium. So that's going to wrap it up. He's Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. Thanks to producer extraordinaire Aaron Smith. See you next time. It's the BCJ podcast brought to you by Holy Grail and Home Field and Turtle Sprue right here on BearcatJournal.com.